Okay, there we go. I think we are recording. So, hey everybody, I am here with the one and only Jimmy DiResta. And if you don't know who Jimmy DiResta is, you're either way
Only
too
one of you.
young. Yeah, and there's only one of me too. There's only one Jacob Dineco. So, if you don't know who Jimmy DiResta is, you should, because most people do, and we'll get into why you should in a little bit. But
Thank you.
um, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for a living?
I'm a multimedia artist, I guess you could say, or
Okay.
maker, fabricator. I work in metal, wood, plastic, glass. And in my older years, I'm 53 now. And in the last 7 or 8 years, I got into digital fabrication, which has really always been a dream for me to get into, but never could afford it. But
Right.
with my success on YouTube and prices of all that stuff coming down, and then also I get to test drive a lot of these pieces of equipment. I've gotten heavily into CNC and laser cutting, which has been really fun for me. But I spent my entire life fabricating woodwork, metalwork, prototyping. Ever
Hmm.
since I was a young boy, that's all I've ever done. My
Wow.
first jobs as a kid were working in sign shops and band sawing letters. And I got older, I got into construction and basically anything that I could do with my hands. I worked at a florist through high school as well. I worked at sign shops and florists. And then when I got
Hmm.
in college, I worked at a florist doing all the props for big expensive parties. And then I got into the toy business. I designed and developed toy products. I learned a lot about manufacturing and machining.
Hmm.
I'd go to tool rooms in China, watch manufacturing and tools being made for injection molding. And then about 20 years ago, my brother said, "Hey, do you want to do this TV show with me?" And we got on TV. My brother
Right.
was an actor and a comedian, and it's always a shot in the dark. It's always a big, almost a 99.999% no.
Hmm.
But we got lucky and we got a show on the air of us making stuff together, and then we did another show and then a third show, all very small, nothing that ever was a big success. And then about 10 years ago, we got a show on Discovery Channel, and that was a big deal because it was like the holy grail for us. And
Hmm.
that show we did 12 episodes, and then it didn't go further because of personnel problems in the company.
Hmm.
And the show was highly rated, but unfortunately, we didn't get to do more of them. And so I started doing YouTube, and that was about 9 years ago. I started doing YouTube.
Yeah.
And here I am, and that's been my most successful venture is just YouTube, making stuff on YouTube and teaching people how to make things.
Right. Right. How, um, with YouTube, when did you kind of figure out this is what I'm gonna kind of head down this path with YouTube? What kind of prompted
Well,
you to
it's
do
funny.
that?
It's a classic story because the TV business, it's like a love-hate relationship. It's like you
Yeah.
keep going back and getting burned, and then you try again and you get burned again. And so the last time I did it with the Discovery Show, everything was hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Everybody thought the show was a super creative show. We would pick garbage and make
Yeah.
it into props and things to sell at the flea market.
Hmm.
And that
Yeah.
was what the show was about. It was called Dirty Money because we'd find garbage and sell it at the flea market. And it was a lot of fun. It was like a dream job. We did it at my shop in New York, and we got to pick New York City garbage, which is the best garbage in the world. And we had a lot of fun
Yeah.
spending half the show at the flea market. And then when the show didn't go on because of some internal personnel problems, like well,
Hmm.
basically what happens is every show has like has a mother and a father.
Okay.
And the minute that mother and father internally at the company either move on or quit, nobody
Hmm.
wants to take care of the baby and they just
Oh.
let the baby die. And that's any show you see that's been successful is because there was somebody, if not, the president of the company or
Mm.
somebody internally at the company that champions that show from birth till life, till it's walking on its own 2 feet.
Hmm.
And when that person goes away, that show will just die. It's
Interesting.
usually one or two people. And
Yeah.
fortunately, so we had one of those guys. His name was
Yeah.
Howard. Howard got fired, and all of his projects fizzled up. And so
Wow.
unfortunately, our show was kind of left hanging out to dry. And I was a little annoyed. So I was like, I'm going to show
Hmm.
these people that don't answer my emails anymore what they're going to miss. And so I started doing YouTube.
Hmm.
And I didn't know. I was very lucky that I got in on YouTube at the perfect crest of the wave when it was, at the time, I think Colin Furze, who just hit 10 million subscribers,
Hmm.
was on. And the King of Random, I know, was always on. And a couple of other like life hack guys whose names I
Right.
can't remember. But there was a lot of guys doing it. And then I just went on it begrudgingly. I didn't go on it.
Hmm.
I didn't really look around and say, this
Right.
is what I want to do. I looked probably one evening for a minute. And I was like, if this guy can do this, I can do this.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a YouTuber that had 30,000 subscribers, and I was like, wow. I mean, that is just unbelievable. 30,000. I remember that number because I remember seeing, I had like 10 subscribers because I did have a YouTube channel, but I only just gave it out to friends to show videos that I made.
Right.
I always made my own pitch videos for the TV shows.
Okay.
So for me to transition and make one every couple of days wasn't a big deal.
Right.
And so I said, let me try this.
Right. So what's been the kind of the progression since then? Because you said that's about 2010, 2011?
So like 2012 was when I got super serious with YouTube and like just said, you know what? But for like the first 100,000 subscribers, I was still taking on client work and installations and stuff. Because, you know, YouTube, you don't go on YouTube to become rich. You go on YouTube just to show off, basically, and that's it. You know, and if you get lucky, like I feel like I got lucky. But I also make good content, and you know I'm proud of the content I make, and I can brag a little bit because I have the numbers to prove it. But you know, a lot of guys go on YouTube and they start right away with the surveillance camera videos, and I tell people you can't put up a surveillance camera video of you working in your shop unless it's a 3-second establishing clip, which is fine. But you can't run a 15-minute clip of the surveillance camera. Nobody wants to watch that. And a lot of guys ask me, they say, "What's the big secret?" These are my big clues on YouTube. You want the audience to see what the eyes see. So if you're the maker, you want the audience, and it doesn't necessarily mean wearing a GoPro on your face. Right. But you know, that camera is like a probe. It's like a telescope. Yeah. You want to telescope in where my eyes are looking. So if my eyes are looking here and the camera can see from the side, that's what you want to see. And then a combination of close shots, wide shots, close shots, wide shots. Establishing shots, like I'll show the outside of a garage for 10 frames, and then I go inside. Interesting. You know, it's just basic filmmaking, and I'm not saying I'm great at it, but you know, I have a comfortable formula that's been working to some extent. Yeah. You know, you put up a video, you spend 6 months on thinking it's going to be the best video ever, and it gets 100,000 views when you're used to getting 250,000. And then you put up a stupid restoration video of a stupid rifle that you bought at a stupid garage sale, and it hits 8 million. And you have no idea why. Yeah. And I wasn't even going to like put that video up. I had nothing to put up, and I had enough pieces of that video. Sometimes I reserve things for like a vlog entry where I'll do a 25, 30-minute vlog, and I'll show several little things. And if I have a video that's sort of incomplete, or I feel it's redundant, or just doesn't really have doesn't have beat to stand on its own, I'll put it on a vlog entry. And that's what I was going to do with the rifle. I'm glad I didn't.
Wow. So how has this kind of progressed for you from 2012 to now? Because you're doing a lot more things now than just YouTube, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. You build a fan base, and then your fans want to buy stuff from you. I mean, that was never the plan, but the fans really dictate what you sell. I make my ice pick. I think I have my ice pick in my pocket. Yeah, I make an ice pick for myself. I made several for myself, a couple of them on camera, and then I started getting people saying, "Hey, I want one." Yeah. And I was like, "Ugh, you gonna make these?" I was like, "Make them for yourself. That's what my channel's all about." Right. For yourself. And then a friend of mine said, "Hey, Stupid," who's a businessman, he said, "Hey, Stupid, why don't you pre-sell 100? If you sell 100, then offer a delivery date a few months down the road, and see what happens." And that's what I did. And I immediately sold 100, and then I had to make them. Yeah. I didn't have a design. I was making them for myself, so there was a lot of leeway. Like I didn't worry if the tip slid off, and I didn't care that this pulled out because I was making them for myself. I didn't care that this broke off. And so then when I sold 100 of them, I had to go and design them to be proper. And I talked with my sister, who's a jewelry designer. She said, instead of I was using a lot of electrical solder. She's like, you need to use silver solder there so it won't break off. And like in all of my time, as far as I know, I've only like 2 or 3 of these have only broken off out of thousands. You know, because we test every one, and the ones that break, we either resolder, or the ones that have a janky one, we put in the friends and family box. So when friends and family come by, they're like, "Can I have an ice pick?" I give them a second. The one that didn't pass QC. That's right. So my fans really dictated, me getting into selling my own products. But at about 100,000 subscribers, maybe even earlier now, back in the old days, you needed about 100,000 for people to start to notice you.
Mhm.
And nowadays people get a little bit earlier. You know, you might have 20,000 subscribers before you develop relationships with people. But I tell people all the time, just wait for them to approach you.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to see something in you, and then they're going to say, hey, would you be interested in representing this product or that product?
Right.
If you reach out, they begrudgingly will be like, oh, I guess I'll take a look. I don't know. And then you feel like the underdog. It's like, I say it all the time. It's like going to the prom, if they still have proms, and like waiting to be asked to dance.
Yeah.
You need to wait to be asked to dance, because if you try and ask all these advertisers to dance, they just don't have respect for you. So
Interesting.
you have to wait for them to come to you.
Yeah. Awesome. So, and you've got, let's see, a podcast you do as well now.
I do
for a
two
while.
podcasts.
I mean, that's two. So I'm most familiar with Making It.
Yep.
With your buddies.
Making It started again. It was another fan.
Yeah.
A fan. We were chatting. Me, Bob, and Dave were all in the comment section on Facebook, and of a video or a link or video or picture, I forget what. And then one of the fans underneath it, this guy Jeff said, he said, hey, why don't you guys do a podcast together? And all the other people in the comment section were like, oh my God, that would be fantastic. I would watch that. Oh my God, that would be great. That was 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah. And then we talked on the phone for the first time ever. We're like, hey, people are really pushing this. You want to do this? And they're like, let's do one. If it doesn't sound good, we just never tell anybody we did it. We did one, and then we published it. And we're at like 270 episodes now. Yeah. And then about a year ago, I have this long text message chain with Andrew from Blacksmith Tools, Andrew Alexander, and Eric from Hand Tool Rescue. And we're into like antique machines and blacksmithing tools and metalworking tools and anything that, I say, if it can't crush your hand off in 2 seconds, we're probably not interested in it. It's usually what we say. So we get these big, heavy pieces of equipment, sometimes small, but something super interesting about an antique screwdriver. And we talk about this stuff constantly. We were talking for about a year and a half, and I said, guys, why don't we just turn this conversation into a podcast? And they were both immediately like, let's do it. How do we do it? What's a computer? How do we do this? Like, where do we talk? And so the podcast is a little bit low quality because we do it through Skype, and we don't do any local files. But we're going to maybe try Zencaster next.
Oh, okay.
We did 1 year worth of episodes. We got about 25 episodes, and it's taken off with the fans. We have super loyal fans. Yeah. My behavior on the Fits All podcast, which is the one I just mentioned, is a little bit more ornery than when I'm on the Making It. Making It is like, it's like 4 dads hanging out, and Fits All is like we're all hanging out in our man cave. Right.
Okay. That's awesome. I got to check that out, because we have the here in Minnesota, it's called the Pioneer Power Show. And everybody
That's
comes
like
in
right up our alley.
So I went and so you can find anything for any tractor, any old car, anything there. That's kind of the 1 year event, and they canceled it. But I bought a leg vise there last year and a blower, because I'm trying to get into blacksmithing, but got them for a really good deal. So it's like me in a candy store, just like you, I think. But it's
we love it. We have so much fun on that podcast, both of them. I mean, I'm just so happy that the fans are still listening to Making It.
It's
great.
Yeah. So what's the most enjoyable thing about your job, about like what you're doing and how you're doing it for you?
The best thing for me is that I have to constantly be learning. And in some cases, because I'm in my 50s, it's like the internal struggle of like, I got to learn something new again. Versus, oh my God, I'm so excited to open up this new machine and figure out how to use the software or whatever it is. Yeah. Even blacksmithing. I mean, 3 years ago, I took in my former assistant, Brett McAfee he's on a channel called Skull and Spade. Brett was my assistant for 3 years. He just, about 6 months ago, he moved to California, but for those 3 years, he was very, very into blacksmithing, and I always wanted to be. Right. And because of his gusto for blacksmithing, he got me into it. So I immediately started buying toys for the two of us to play with. And it opened up my whole world. I mean, I have some of my closest friends now I met through the blacksmith community that I met because Brett opened that door for me.
Yeah.
And it was always there, but I didn't have somebody like pushing it. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have somebody around me. Like, and I was friends with Andrew and a couple of other guys who were into blacksmithing stuff, but I didn't really know them like, you know, like I know them now.
Yeah.
And so blacksmithing was one thing that I learned that I never would have done because of YouTube. The CNC, whole CNC world, CNC stands for computer numeric controlled, and that stands for either plasma cutting or laser cutting or routering. I wouldn't have learned any of that. And, you know, my whole world has expanded because of it. You know, I delved deeper into machining. A lot of it has to do with when you have a channel and you want to keep the fans interested, and also personally, I want to be interested.
Sure.
So
yeah.
I don't want to keep making kitchen cabinets, which is
Right.
some of the things I did early on, or a wooden bench, or, you know, I want to keep expanding what I can do for the camera and also for myself.
Right.
The camera drives a lot of that, just trying to make interesting content for the camera.
Right. Yeah.
You know? And I'm sitting on my most recent video. I made these stools. And the top is leather.
It's really nice.
The legs are walnut that I got at my friend's sawmill. The stretcher is made out of steel that I can stand on, which is great because it just, I learned something, you know, in the process that I didn't think on paper, but once this is put together, it's not, I had to weld these legs in place. So I could stand, I could stand on the rungs right now.
Yeah.
And I can break off.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, just constantly expanding and looking for new interesting content is been fantastic.
So what's been, I think it kind of jumps into the most difficult part or more difficult parts is that what you would say, you know, you're constantly learning and trying to get learn new things. Is there anything else that it's been kind of a challenge for you over the past 10 years?
You know, they say burnout, but I've been doing this my whole life, so I can probably stand on my feet and continuously work for 50 hours and not even complain as long as I have a couple of slices of pizza and some salsa water.
Right,
I'll be fine.
Yeah.
But you know, so the burnout hasn't been a problem. I guess it's developing the relationships because you go from being a maker that makes things that's, you know, cool in your basement, and all of a sudden you start getting more equipment, cooler tools. So it's navigating that with the audience, being like, hey, I want to grow. And I want to, you know, some YouTubers stay in that box, you know, and they're like, I can't get outside this box because my fans expect this of me. But I've always wanted to grow. And then when people say to me, oh, you know, like CNC is cheating. It's not cheating because I thought of it. I designed it. I made it.
Right.
You know, does Harley Earl cheating because he didn't actually get out there and pound the steel that went on the Cadillac? He designed it. You know, he's the guy who designed the Cadillacs with the fins. I've had Cadillac on my mind because I got a new project. But, you know, I spent literally from like the age of like 11 to the age of like 48 staying on the line with my bandsaw, like trying to stay perfectly on the line. Yeah. Now a machine could do exactly what I want. And I'm going to be like, no, I'm better at the machine. I'm going to stay on the line. If that CNC can cut exactly the letter form that I like, you know, the Garamond style font exactly the way I want, I'm going to say, hey, you do it better than me. You do it.
Right.
But you're not going to do it unless I tell you how to do it, what to do, where, what size, when, the order of operations. You know, people come in and say, oh, you just push a button. They don't realize. I'm like, okay, there's the machine, there's the button. Go ahead, think of something and get it in that machine's brain. How do you do it?
Yeah. It's
There's
not
so much learning.
There's a lot to it for sure. Cause I mean, I've did some of this in another school I taught at. We did, we were using Titan Gilroy. He came out with some software. He's in California. He's really pushing manufacturing, but has developed a whole training for creating the part, creating the tool path, sending it to the machine. And there's a lot. It's not just pushing a button for sure. So, yeah.
And, you know, so I guess you said, I guess that question, that long answer was to like, what is the challenges? The challenges is like dealing with the audience and dealing with the changing stuff. And, you know, my loyal audience loves the fact that I'm learning and constantly. And then I go backwards. Like I'll use technology and then I go back and just use something that is the easiest way is just throw it on the lathe. You know, I don't have any other way of doing it. Or just, you know, I'll break out the razor blade and cut something and be like, oh, you could have cut that on the laser. people go back and forth. I'm like,
Right.
I cut on the laser, you complain about that. I cut on
I can't win.
It's just different.
Oh,
It's just different people. So, it's obviously just a mix of interwoven personalities.
Oh my gosh.
But, another challenge is, developing and keeping your relationships with those advertisers. And, I worked with Lowe's last year for the whole year. I made a tremendous amount of money. And then they just stopped answering emails because the budgets change or the person switches jobs. And then you're just like, okay, we're working on a new budget. We'll call you if we need you. And that's it. And, suddenly, you're used to a certain level of income for 6, 8 months, 10 months.
Right.
And then suddenly you go like, oh,
yeah,
it's the freelance mentality. You got to always save for a rainy day. And that's been the challenge. But thankfully, I have my product line that I can sell. I could always, anytime I talk about my product line to my audience, things sell. My business partner who's behind the scenes checking the numbers, he goes, stop talking about ice picks. And I'll go and talk about ice picks. And then he goes, okay, cool. We need 100 more in the store.
Yeah.
So they'll sell out.
Huh.
So it's a freelancer's lifestyle. I see a lot of guys, and I've always had this lifestyle. I've never really had like a steady job. So I'm used to the down times. I'm always like when things start dipping below a certain line, I'm like, okay, what can I sell? What can I sell? I start calling up my old clients. I'm like, hey, Bullet Bourbon, do you need any sign work? Oh, we just talking about you. We need you to help us develop this concept for a marketing strategy. Yeah. Cool. I wouldn't have made that phone call if things were healthy, but when things get a little bit dippy, you just start calling up your contacts, letting people know you're available for work. And, I even write back to my previous advertisers and say, hey, if you guys have any budgets coming up, I'm more than hot and ready to go. If you guys want to, we'll develop some interesting ideas. It's really just, and I call that patting the bushes, just literally just letting people know you're still alive, you're still here. And, every fifth or sixth video that I do, I try and make something. And it's not even something I'm conscious of. Every once in a while, I'll have like a really somewhat epic idea. Yeah. And I'll say like, okay, this is going to be a good one. And I just keep reminding, because those are the ones that go somewhat viral. Like these stools has been a really good response to these because there's so many tools used in them and they're long and it's like people get a lot of meat out of it. And then in between, I'll do some smaller stuff. So like every fifth or sixth video, I get like a little uptick of like interest, and I start hearing from advertisers again because they'll see that video. It'll get stolen and posted on Facebook somewhere, or, and then it'll get recognized by somebody. Like I've gotten inquiries because of this antique gun restoration that I did in December. I've gotten 100 inquiries. Would you be interested in letting us re-edit that video for our Facebook page? It has 10 billion subscribers. I'm like, okay, would you like to pay? Oh, no, we don't pay anything. I'm like, then what? Like, why are you in business? I always like, if they want to give me like even $1,000 just as a licensing fee. Yeah. Nope. Wow. And so I'll make the money myself. I keep it on my channel. It earns money because it's getting viewed a lot. Right. But it gets me the attention. Sure. That leads to other stuff. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Is that kind of hard to deal with as far as, you're a big deal and I think you are. Is that kind of hard to deal with people constantly asking you, hey, can I use this? Hey, can I do this with you? Hey, can I use this content? No, because I'm more than happy to, this is my job. My job is creating content. Now my job has become creating content. Yeah. I can still always fabricate anything I want, which is great. Anybody can call. Like a lot of times I get referred to people and they have no idea who I am. They just go, hey, I know you're a welder, right? And a machinist. I'm like, yeah. What do you need? They're like, oh, I need you to make this part for my tractor hub. Is that something you could do? I'm like, yeah, sure, bring it over. And they don't know anything about me, and I don't qualify. I don't say anything. I'm just like, I'll make it, like, how much I'm like, I don't know, give me $200. All right, great. And I'm just like that guy in the woods that knows how to do stuff. Yeah. And then it's like this guy locally, he brings me his lawnmower every year as well. Nice. I still don't. He doesn't even have a cell phone, so he doesn't know anything about like my life outside of
that's cool.
A workshop.
That's neat. That's neat. Yeah. Yeah.
And I help all my neighbors. Somebody will bring, like the guy who's wanted me to weld his broken lawnmower deck a few times. It's like, what do you want? I go, nothing. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Mow my lawn. That's it. Whatever. But it's afforded me the YouTube lifestyle has afforded me the ability to pick and choose. Yeah. Which is great. Like allow if I'm going to do a custom job, my very first priority is will it make a good video.
Sure.
And I hired a guy to do my roof. I just remember. I hired a guy to do my roof. Well, I had him quote, and during the quote,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Would you mind if I filmed you working on the roof?" He's like, "Oh, I don't have insurance for this kind of job." I'm like, "Don't worry, I'll block your face out. It doesn't."
Right.
I'm working with the roofing company. They want to see somebody installing
Sure.
their product.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I don't know if I can be on the roof without them insurance." I'm like, "Dude, don't worry about it. They don't care."
Yeah.
So now he's like,
Wow.
"I'll do it, but I'm a little iffy about the insurance." I think he's Canadian. So I said, I go, I said, I'll just set a camera up on the house because it's for my little garage. And he won't know I'm filming the entire process from the house. And no one will know his name or his face at all.
Right. Yeah.
And he won't even know where the content gets aired. He won't have any idea. Anyway, I haven't pulled the trigger on him yet.
Yeah. Wow. That's funny.
Yeah.
So for my students, and we're talking about 14 to 18-year-olds who are more hands-on learners and are probably thinking about doing something like this for a career, what would be some advice that you would give them as far as kind of exploring the careers where you're using your hands?
I say constantly to my students, because I taught at college for 25 years, I tell students, I graduated in 1990. I started teaching like 2 years later, right up until just recently. And so I tell my students all the time, you need to experiment and, lose that sense of entitlement, because I'm 53 and I still don't have that sense of entitlement in most cases. Some cases I feel like I deserve it, but the entitlement of like, this guy wants to hire me to do his logo, but he only wants to give me $15 an hour. I'm like, you have no portfolio right now.
Right.
What you need to do is start building your portfolio and building your skills with people,
building
your skills with clients, building your skills with banking, building your skills with business. And so if you're getting started, you take any job for any pay just to exercise your hands, your brain, your mind, your eyes, your ability. And that's really what, like, you go from college and all you hear in college is, this is real life, this is real life. And then when you're in real life, you're like, oh, I got to earn money. And, there's no more mom and dad, at least in most cases, to pay your bills.
Right.
So you really got to hit the ground running. And a lot of times that means, working for underpay or maybe even for free, just because it's a great portfolio piece.
Right.
I still do things for portfolio piece. And, people always assume they'll see me making a guitar. Like I made this guitar recently where I put metal around the edge and people are like, oh my God, that guy must have paid $10,000 for that. I did it for a friend. He only gave me a few $100s. And I did it because I wanted the video. I wanted to get back into doing a guitar thing. And then I'll do a 10-minute thing where I talk about, shaving cream, and I'll get $10,000 for that. So that affords me the ability to make choices, and like my agent will be like, hey, company X wants you to talk about their app. They only want to give us $7,000. I'm like, are you crazy? I'm like, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
I used to load a truck and 500 sheets of plywood and take a week to make something for half that money.
Right.
All I got to do is talk about the stupid app for 3 minutes or for half a minute and a half on my channel. And my agent's like a Hollywood guy. So he's like, I think you deserve more money. I'm like, if that's all they're giving, I'm happy to do that.
That's good. That's funny. No, I think you're right. I think, and I hear this all the time, and I completely agree that, at this point it's just learning, it's developing those skills, and
I'm still learning. Every like interaction I go away from, and I'm like, you always Monday morning quarterback yourself, consciously or unconsciously.
Sure.
Never want to meet a guy like that ever again. Like you say that to yourself, or a company or a person, or you say, wow, what a great experience. I really want to work with more people like that.
Right. Yeah, but it helps you to make better decisions and figure things out and know what to do next time for sure. Yeah.
I always say the joke, like even when I meet a client, and it carries through every business interaction you have.
Yeah.
If I met a client to like do interior design work, and I realize like, you have lunch with them, and if they can't pick what kind of salad they want to eat for lunch while you're doing a consultation, how are they going to know what color paint to paint the wooden thing you built for them?
Right.
And so I start to keep my distance from them, and I'll be like, you know what, I've gotten too busy. I can't take that job. I'm sorry. You didn't commit fast enough.
Yeah.
And, I like people that make fast decisions, and they're pointed, and, those are some of my best clients is when I drop off something, they're like, this is beautiful. Great. Here's the check. And then I never hear from them again. And then, then you get clients that are like, the drawer's a little loose. I'm like, okay, what happened? I don't know. The dog jumped on it. And then like the drawer is like ripped out. It looks like somebody sat on it. That happened to my client. You know, like the people that call you back constantly as if like you're.
Yeah.
You just pick and choose.
Goodness. Well, that's part of, I mean, that's just part of, you know, people and dealing with people.
But the one thing I do say, like, if you are going to live a life of manufacturing, making, and servicing the things you make, always say no problem. And that's what I do. I never like, I'm complaining now is kind of just to be funny, but anytime somebody needs something from me, if it's something that I've made for them or something that, you know, they need servicing or they'll call me back, I'll be like, no problem. There's been many times where I'll bring something into someone's house and they go, wow, is that the color of the sample? I'm like, yep. And I have the sample right there and you put it on and the sample disappears against, like, I didn't even know it was going to be so dark.
Right.
Like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to change it? I'll take it out right now. I'll put it back in the car. And we'll go. Let me live with it for a while. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I never hear from them again. Whereas if I would have said, I'm not going to paint it. Do you know how much it's going to cost to move it again? And then all of a sudden it's like, you got this thing with them. And then they want to fight back and they're like, I paid for it. I want it to be the color I want. But I find if I always say, no problem, we'll put it back in the car. We'll help. Oh, no. Let me live with it for a little bit. It's just a weird psychological thing. Like if you fight them on something or you're resistant or you ridge up a little bit, then they want control. If you just go, you have all the control, then they go, oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's not such a big deal just yet.
Yeah. Awesome.
It's worked in a lot of circumstances.
Yeah.
How you manipulate your clients.
No, but I think you learn from clients and you learn from past experiences. Like you said, it's like, let's last time I did this, that didn't work. So let's give this a shot and see how that works. And you see what happens. So,
But I mean, if you're starting out for the very first time and you're really on your own, you know, you're 1, 2, 3 years out of college, you really got to expand your knowledge base, your vocabulary, what it is you really like to do. So take on any challenge. And I personally like it when somebody says to me, can you make me an X? Or a product company comes to me and says, hey, try out our new product, but I want you to build a this. I'm like, oh, wow. I never would have thought of building a this because I kind of go down my own proven, worn path of thought process. Where if somebody comes to me and says, a perfect, for instance, is I've seen this folding stool a million times where it's like a bench and then it turns into a table with 2 seats. And people have been sending them to me for years. And then the other day I was on the phone with Lincoln Electric and they're like, hey, why don't we do like a springtime video, like an outdoor guarded bench or something or a picnic table. And they said those 2 things. And right away I'm like, oh, that thing that everybody's been sending me for 3 years. Let me revisit that. I revisited that. And now I just came up with a new concept. Well, it's just a new physical design on that old concept that somebody else thought of. And so I'm going to make that next week.
Wow.
And,
that's cool.
you know, I'd spent some days marinating on it and developing it. It's all on my Instagram story. But that's a product that I came to develop because I was talking to the client and the client gave me the idea. I like being blindsided like that. It makes me think of something that I otherwise wouldn't have thought.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think you're right. Sometimes you just kind of let, because I get the same way. I get stuck on, there's so much to make or so much to do. It's like, well, which one do you choose? Am I just make a list and go from there, or put that in my back pocket, put that in the shelf and come back to it. So absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well,
so, I mean, another huge thing for a newbie is just to experiment. You really got to experiment, you know, and don't be the type of person that will only work on something because you're getting paid. That's that's small-minded. You want to like work on a project, you know, your cousins, your family, your sister, your brothers need something. Do stuff for them. That's, you know, free just to exercise. Don't think that you got to open your workshop up for money every single time. That's somebody that is going to only stay in a box.
Stay in the lane. I'm the same way too. Cause I got my fingers in all kinds of things, from woods to cars to hopefully blacksmithing. We'll see. we'll get there. I feel like there's only so many hours in the day, but, you know, got to jump around and get in there. But so one last question, where can we find out more about you and what you do?
Just Google me on YouTube, you know, just go in the search bar, Jimmy DiResta, and I'll pop up. My meme, it just says I make. It's my license plate for my car. And I'm on Facebook a little bit, but I don't do Facebook too much. I mean, I'm there because, you know, I want to hold the space saver for my name. I'm working with a company now that started a Facebook page for me, and they're taking my videos and editing them for YouTube. So they're a little cheesy, but they know that market better than me. I stick to YouTube. My original videos are all on YouTube. They take them and then re-edit them and put them on Facebook with like rock and roll sounds and like big graphics. So that is me, although it's not me.
Right.
So you'll find me on Facebook with my videos there, and just Google me. I've also done a television show with Nick Offerman and Amy Poehler called Making It. I'm like kind of the background artist, the guy in charge of the workshop there, and I'm on camera from time to time. That show is going. We're going to do season 3. We should have been shooting it in May, but now we're probably going to shoot it in August if everything lifts by then.
Awesome. Okay.
That's fun.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. If you publish, just let me know where, and I'll show it around. Unless it's going to be private, then that's a different story.
Okay, I'll do that. You got it.
See you, buddy.